Thanks, Dan, and I'll pay you later for the intro. So in breaking tradition, I don't have slides. I have my talk on the iPad here. Let me talk a little bit about IU and where I come from. And we've talked a lot about servicing the enterprise, and I want to talk about my enterprise, the enterprise we have at IU. So we are about a $3 billion organization. In the IT budget alone is about $120 million. We have about 110,000 students at IU. It's about 25% of the entire undergrad enrollment in the state of Indiana. So we're a large organization. We have about 11,000 staff and faculty. I was going to impress you with the amount of grant income that we pulled in last year, and then I looked at Stanford, so I'm a little embarrassed to say we only pulled in $600 million last year, which is actually very good for the university. A lot of medical research. If you look at the grants administration page, very impressive areas of cancer and diabetes and Alzheimer's research. And to support all of that, we have large campus networks and 1,500 edge switches, a big core router environment, a large wireless environment, 100 controllers, thousands of access points all over everywhere. If you're a student, when you show up on campus, when you cross the border from town to campus, wireless is pervasive. You can go anywhere, connect anytime, anything. A couple weeks ago, we had student move-in on campus. In the first probably 36, 48 hours, we had almost 14,000 new devices registered to the network. And these are everything from laptops and cell phones to Xboxes. We had 2,000 requests at the first day for technical support from students. Half of those were for their, I'll say, non-traditional devices. My Xbox doesn't work, my roommate's does, we need to have a game here. So, we have probably a different environment from an enterprise than most people have thought of today about what an enterprise looks like. But for a university, and for the few universities here actually, their enterprises probably look like mine, and lots of other big universities look like mine as well. And as folks have said all through today and yesterday, these environments are complex, getting more complex, harder to manage, and at the same time, everything we do relies on the network. So in my office, I have an IP phone. Obviously, my computer's connected. My lights are connected to the building network. My shades go up and down based on what the building network does. My card key gets me in and out based on what the network does. And all of those services have been sort of piled on top of that without people thinking about the impact of an outage. Last Friday, I got an email that said we have a problem in the data center. We have about 75 network engineers on campus. One of them did a finger fumble on a firewall filter. And for an hour and a half, what happened in the data center stayed in the data center. And so you couldn't authenticate machines, you couldn't get anything in and out. Classes were canceled on Friday. That's not a bad thing. But again, that's the impact of the complexity here. So probably 2 or 3 years ago, Matt Davey brought this idea of OpenFlow to me, and this clean slate program happening here at Stanford. And a few weeks later, maybe a month later, I ran into Nick at a conference in Chicago just by chance, and he talked about it as well. He was interested in our large HP edge switch deployment. Again, thousands of switches across the environment, and HP is the vendor he was using in his test. So we talked, and from that, I think we decided pretty early on to make an investment in OpenFlow and SDN. And I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do here. And I honestly have changed my slide deck here, or my notes here, 4 or 5 times while listening to people today. It was very insightful to hear people talk about what they're trying to solve, the problems they're looking at. And so I'll give you a view here about what we are going to do at IU in this area. So we took this idea, this concept to the president, to President McGrawy. And we said, we have a chance here to look at this disruptive technology in a way that can really set IU apart. We have the global NOC. We manage some of the largest, most complex networks in the world, and we have all that data, right? We collect data on every network that we have. We store all that data, and we have assembled a group of engineers. I'll say bar none, probably collectively the best in higher ed, and let's put that to work. So what we proposed to him was an investment by his office for a intern program, for research program, and trying to sort of increase the visibility of the university in very specific areas. So a couple years ago, we started a student intern program. We brought in 8 students from around the country, and the goal here is to have these kids sit in the global NOC in the areas of software development. We have 20 full-time software developers writing full sets and monitoring and such. We have the operations center. We have full 2 sets of operations centers, a full-time center and a backup facility. We have network engineers who deploy everything you can think of. We have folks who do design, architecture. So we placed these kids with with the employees, and we ran them through some classes, and they had to present at the end. And sort of the outcome was, all of them said, this was great. I don't learn this back at my school. And we didn't pick just kids from Indiana, we picked some from other states. And we thought, well, this is interesting. And we put more energy into it this past summer, and had, I think, 12 or 13 kids come in from around the country. Montana, Delaware, I think, some folks obviously from Indiana, and a few other places. And again, the response was incredible. They couldn't wait to get back. And the response I got from the people who sent the students to me was, boy, my employees wish they would have been able to come. So we've created this energy that around training and education based on real world things and what we do in the NOC. So this past spring, I had a chance to talk to the NSF about this, and they funded the intern program for 2 more years. I'm sorry, for the upcoming 2 years. And want us to develop a program that's portable. So instead of teaching kids 8, 10, 12 at a time, we're going to develop a program that can be moved out to other universities to teach 8, 10, 12 kids at a time using our programs and our curriculum that we'll develop here. So what else we've done with, again, this initiative is start the in-center lab. And this is really Matt Davies' project. You can talk to Matt a lot more about this. Ron Milford is here. He also works in the lab. So the lab's purpose is to have interoperability testing of SDN hardware. So we're hardware agnostic. We're vendor agnostic. We don't really care what brand or who makes this. But the goal is to write applications and programs to test equipment against someone else's equipment. So the folks manning the lab, aside from the management, are students, again, from around the country. So students get hands-on, real-world experience. I heard someone say today we have a problem with engineering and education. We're trying to fill that gap ever so slightly, but maybe we can turn out some students. In fact, we hired the first student from the intern program. He works for Matt, I believe. So, actually, he works for Luke Fowler, who's our manager for software development. So again, I didn't want to have a technical discussion in this talk about what SDN is going to do for IU, but what we're trying to give back to the community with the lab, with the intern program, trying to develop some research staff. Martin Swaney from Delaware has chosen to join IU. Thomas Sterling from LSU has joined this summer. So we're starting to create some excitement, some energy around what is happening in IU with the global NOC, and I think we'll continue to do that. Matt Davey obviously is a big part of this, but the staff, we have about 90 people in the group. We're all very interested in this, excited with this, to make IU a better network, to make the other networks we run a better network, and provide resources for lots of people in the room. Again, there's not a lot of universities here, but you all are going to need staff and people who hands-on day one. Have seen something, have tested something, have done something in not just a classroom. We don't hire people who can recite page 42 of the Cisco operator's manual. They're not very interesting to us. the people who understand how networks work, when things break, why they break, and know how to handle that. That's what we're interested in. That's what we're interested in teaching. So that's my minutes.
We've got time for a few questions. He's afraid of questions. So how much are you teaching them about SDN?
Teaching everything we know about SDN to the students. So they're actually in the lab. They're looking at equipment that we have today. We have a good number of vendors who've shipped us hardware already, and they're active in that deployment in the lab. They're active in developing the test plans for that. As much as we know, we teach them.
So Scott complained this morning that we just don't have enough abstractions or enough principles in networking. It's just a trade. What sort of principles or abstractions are they learning by working with SDN?
Well, that it's something different than what they've been taught traditionally. So these are kids, juniors, seniors coming out of college, have gone through the engineering classes, have gone through Networks 101. And this is something different than that. And we're talking about separating the control plane from the forwarding. We're talking about the things that this can do, the things that this can open up, the complexity this can sort of erase in creating this. It's exciting to them because it's different. It's exciting for them because it's new. And so one example is we don't really advertise much here that we do this, not yet. So from the first year where we had to sort of scrape together 7 or 8 kids, last year we had a few more we could pick and choose. Indications are we'll have 200 to 300 people apply for probably 18 spots this year. And it's all word of mouth. One school we work with is University of Montana. And when the first round of students went back, they had a little talk with the computer science department. And about 4 or 5 kids left the room. They were describing the program and what they learned and who they were working with and that. And 4 or 5 kids got up and left. What the hell was that? And they came back in 20 minutes with the resumes. And so that's the level of excitement that I think kids are starving for. They want some real world, what's new experience that they're not getting. And sorry for the folks who are teaching, but for the most part, not getting in the classroom.
What sort of features, applications, tools have you experimented with or developed at IU in the SDN realm?
So one of the things we have is a large tool set that the software developers write around monitoring and management. So one of the tools that we've written, it's on demonstration out here, is for the NDDI network, the network that we're building with Internet 2. It's the software to actually provide provisioning for networks across an OpenFlow-based system. So if you go out, Luke Fowler and Ed Bayless are out here and show you what's been built. So that's something we're building and we're writing the software. And again, the students that we bring in are being placed with people like Luke and Ed writing the software.
Who else would like to ask a question?
Being an operator myself, my next question was to Dan's point about the fact that as you're doing that, it's a noble service, but we do anticipate the industry fraternity, the school fraternity kind of developing some kind of certification classes where I can say, okay, I can hire 10 guys who's SDN certified, level 1, level 2, or different domains.
So what does SDN certified mean?
That's part of the thing. Everything is cloud over here, but somebody has to nail that down in terms of use cases and stuff, right?
So we would love to get to the point where we have some possible tie with the academic side. Again, we're all staff, right? We're lowly staff folks. But some tie with the academic side to create some certification, if you will. I'm not sure what that means, but a standard way to test and verify they know more than what they do when they come in. But yeah, again, the plan here is, with the funding we have from the SF, is to create a more consistent program that can be expanded. Me teaching 15, 18 kids a year isn't going to do much for the bucket. It's really empty. But growing that and maybe working with the commercial sector as well.
Sure, I think the NS Open Networking Foundation would have a fix on the issue as well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, we would love their financial support.
There's always somebody below you on the totem pole. Yeah? Thank you, David.